Every country on earth is in debt, but that fact raises a deeper and more unsettling question: if everyone owes money, then who exactly is owed? The United States carries debt measured in tens of trillions, Europe owes vast sums, Japan continues to roll over an enormous burden, and even nations that appear economically powerful still depend on borrowing to keep their systems moving. At first glance, this looks like a sign of weakness, as if the world is slowly drowning in obligations it can never escape. But the truth is more complicated. Debt is not simply a pile of unpaid bills sitting in the background of the global economy. Debt is the structure underneath the entire system, the hidden framework that allows governments to spend, banks to lend, markets to function, and modern states to survive. The strange reality is that debt does not only measure what a nation owes, it also reveals how power is organized. That is why the real question is not whether the world is in debt, because it obviously is, but why the system seems built to depend on debt in the first place. And once you start following that question back through history, you discover that the answer begins not with credit cards, not with Wall Street, and not with digital banking, but with war, state power, and the invention of trust as a financial weapon. The modern world's relationship with debt was born when states needed to finance conflict faster than their available gold and taxes could support. In 17th century England, war with France pushed the crown toward a new kind of arrangement. Private lenders would provide money now, and the government would promise repayment later, with interest, backed by future taxation. That deal changed everything. The state could now spend money before it had collected it, and lenders received something even more valuable than coins, a government promise that could be traded, priced, and trusted. This was the beginning of the modern government bond. And with it came the beginning of a new financial order. The Bank of England was created to help organize that relationship, and other countries soon copied the model because it worked. France adopted it, the Netherlands refined it, and later the United States used it to finance revolution and expansion. What had once been a desperate wartime solution gradually became a permanent feature of statecraft. National debt stopped being seen as failure and started being seen as credibility. The stronger a government's promise, the more easily it could borrow. In that sense, the battlefield moved from land to ledgers. Empires no longer needed to seize gold alone, they could issue bonds, raise capital, and turn future tax revenue into present power. That shift is crucial because it means modern finance was not built simply to move money around. It was built to turn trust itself into an asset, and debt into a tool of governance. Fast forward to the present, and that same logic has expanded into a global loop so large that almost every major economy is locked inside it. Governments issue bonds, banks buy them, pension funds hold them, central banks support them, and investors treat them as the safest assets in the world. In the United States, for example, a huge share of the national debt is held domestically by institutions such as banks, retirement funds, insurance companies, and the Federal Reserve itself, while only a smaller portion sits in foreign hands. That means the popular idea that one country simply owes everything to another country is often misleading. The system is much more circular than that. America owes to Americans, Japan owes largely within its own financial ecosystem, and other advanced economies operate through similar webs of domestic and international creditors. This is why sovereign debt is not just a national issue but a global one. A U.S. Treasury bond is not only a liability for the government, it is also an asset for someone else, a building block in the portfolios of institutions that need safety, liquidity, and stability. The same is true across the developed world. Central banks can create money by buying bonds, and when they do, they transform government debt into the foundation of money creation itself. That means the modern economy is not built on debt despite the system, it is built on debt because of the system. Every dollar, every bond, every reserve asset is tied to a promise somewhere in the chain. And that chain is only stable as long as people continue to believe the promise will be honored. That is the real danger hiding beneath the numbers. Debt becomes a problem not merely when it grows, but when confidence begins to disappear. History repeatedly shows that once investors doubt repayment or political stability, the damage can spread quickly. When Greece's debt crisis exploded, bond markets panicked and international institutions had to step in with rescue packages that came with painful austerity. Argentina's repeated defaults turned borrowing into a long-term national struggle. Sri Lanka's crisis showed how quickly foreign currency shortages, repayment pressure, and political failure can combine into a broader collapse. And yet the system keeps restarting because the goal was never to eliminate debt completely. For modern governments, the real task is not total repayment, it is rolling debt over, refinancing it, and maintaining enough confidence that markets continue to lend. That is why the world can carry more than $300 trillion in total debt and still keep functioning. The system is designed to survive through renewal, not final settlement. In the end, debt is both burden and engine, both risk and fuel, both weakness and power. It transfers wealth upward, shapes political choices, and determines which economies can expand and which must contract. So when we ask who is owed, the answer is not one country, one bank, or one institution. The answer is the system itself, a global architecture of promises held together by trust, expectation, and the belief that tomorrow's money will always exist to pay for today's world. And that is why debt is not just accounting. Debt is modern history, written in numbers, and the future of that history depends on whether the world keeps believing the story.